So hi everyone, welcome to our community meeting, OpenFGA community meeting for May 2026. And we are getting towards the middle of the year, and which of course is always amazing, and to see how time passes so fast. And today we're gonna have our usual agenda: first introductions, things we shipped, few demos. In this case, they're going to be more presentations about the things we'll be doing, and have an open conversation and share some community news. And if you have time, Q&A. Uh, this is our team. We have a new team member who is Alberto, and he's in the meeting, and you can see here. So welcome, Alberto, to the team and to the community meetings. And he's joining us from. Maybe Alberto, you want to introduce yourself so I don't.
Okay, yeah, my name is Alberto. I'm based out of Spain. I recently joined Okta. Previously, I had worked at OutZero a few years ago on OutZero SDKs, and now I'm back to work on OutZero FGA and OpenFGA. And I'm excited about it. So I'm excited to work with all of you. Thank you.
I don't know if there's anyone else in the call that wants to introduce yourselves. And I think I see the most faces I already seen. So maybe we can skip this one. And maybe we just can go out to discuss what which is shipped. So in the OpenFGA side, if we recommend you to upgrade to the latest versions. We are did a lot of small fixes here and there that help on performance. So we've seen good feedback from customers deploying it and get it less resource usage and better performance in some scenarios. So recommend you to do that. Also, there's some security and bug fixes. You might have heard that there's a wave of CVEs that are being reported across every open source project based on AI-based tooling. So we had our own share, and we are kind of addressing those while they are being reported. Nothing very concerning for now. And then we added a couple of features in the CLI, mostly the ability to support custom headers, and a lot of small changes in SDKs. If you're using the Python SDK with the sync mode, we made a fix that we were destroying the connection pool. That implies that you will get much better performance if you upgrade to the new version of the SDK, because reusing the connections in the pool helps a lot in high, at least in high scale scenarios. And that's it for what we've been shipping lately. And now I'm going to introduce Victoria. Victoria is part of our core team that is building the core FGA product. And she's going to share what are we doing using a concept called weighted graphs to change the way we evaluate our authorization checks, and how what is going to be the impact in the product, in performance, and in other things that she'll share now. Welcome, Victoria, all yours.
Thank you. Yeah, so I just wanted to do a quick demo on weighted graphs so can bring visibility to it so people can move forward with their models. The weighted graph is a directed cyclic graph representation of OpenFGA. So relationships are expressed as nodes and edges. Each edge and node has a defined weight for each reachable user type in the subgraph. And additionally, we put more information in the subgraph on nodes and edges like recursiveness, cycle presence, and wildcard access. The weights and the subgraph information allow the new check algorithm and ListObjects algorithm to have better performance by better graph traversal selection. But one thing to note about that is that our performance gains are not only due to using the weighted graph, but also due to other algorithmic changes. So for example, in V2Check, we use the query planner. So not only are we using the weights and subgraph information for graph traversal selection, but we're also using probability to choose what subgraph to traverse based on your tuple distribution and model. So here's an example we can look at to get more visibility into what does the weighted graph actually do. So this is a subsection of the Google Drive example in the playground. So we have a doc type with can read, viewer, parent. We have a folder type with viewer and parent, and we have a group type. The folder type actually has a recursive relation where viewer goes to group member or viewer from parent. So it's referencing itself because it's its own parent. So if we look at the graph representation of that, it becomes more clear because you can see the cycle here. So for example, sorry, let me just move my controls. So for example, if we look at the doc can read relation and we're seeing how to get to the user from this relation, we might choose to take the doc viewer path first when we're performing a traversal because that has a lower weight, which is represented here with the user. So since the weight on this side of the union is 2, but on this side it's infinite because it potentially can recurse, we would most likely select evaluating this edge first, and in particular the one with weight 1, because if we get an allowed true response when we're doing that traversal, then we can short circuit. We don't have to evaluate the other side of the graph. Okay, so model deprecation. So the reason I wanted to talk about weighted graph today is that there are some model definitions that we will no longer be supporting along with weighted graph changes. Two of the ones I'm going to talk about today are missing relation for TTU and tuple cycles in exclusion or intersection. There are some additional check resolutions which will have new behavior, which we have a deprecations document coming out, which you can find more information about those there. I'm not going to be going into those today. So for missing relation for a TTU, you can see that we have this type document viewer relation that has viewer from parent. And then we have the parent relation, which has folder 1 and folder 2. If we look at those types, folder 2 doesn't actually have a viewer relation. So this tuple to user set is missing that relation. So one potential fix, if you have a model like this, is that you can just add the viewer relation or the missing relation to that type, and that would satisfy the weighted graph. If you have a graph like this, the weighted graph won't build, so you won't be able to use it. So why is this no longer supported? Well, previously, when a TTU didn't have a relation, the TTU was resolved at query time. So if for the folder 2, if it didn't have a viewer, it would just skip that path and you would get allowed false. However, for weighted graph, since we're computing the graph prior to resolution, we do all of the graph building upfront. We can't actually build a graph if there's no node for the edge to go to. So the graph fails to build and you can't use it. Okay, so the next one is tuple cycles in exclusion or intersection. So in this relation, we have a type group with relation member. Member goes back to group member through the group member relation. And then there's a but not exclusion that also goes back to group member. So if you have a relation like this, one potential fix for it is adding an intermediate relation. So you could add like a define active member relation, which goes to member, but not blocked. So it takes the user group member cycle and puts it in a separate relation. So again, the reason that this would work with old check is that the resolution was done recursively at query time with a depth limit. With weighted graph, we've taken away the depth limit, but since there's that circular dependency, we can't actually compute the weights for that edge. So moving the relation to a different edge allows us to still compute the weight and build the weighted graph in this case. So yeah, it would be great if you can look at your models and ensure that they work with weighted graph so that you can get the new objects algorithmic performance benefits, which are currently out in latest, and the check algorithm benefits coming soon. But just one note is that if your model doesn't support weighted graph, currently we are still falling back to the previous algorithms. So you can still run queries, you just won't get the benefits. And we have a document coming soon that gives you more details on all of the other deprecations as well. So yeah.
Thank you, Victoria. Do you want to, Tyler, expand a little on the document or not?
Yeah, I can. So we haven't published it yet for on OpenFGA, but I'll put it in the chat just if anybody wants to review and make comments before we actually do. The it's basically just explaining what Victoria just said, but also goes into detail about a couple of other scenarios and gives some more examples and how to like remediate or fix those in your model or in your check resolutions. So if you want, feel free to review those and let us know if you have any questions.
Just to clarify a few things there. So first, this is not it's a change that's going to happen uh, soon, right? So it's something we need to do gradually. First, we're going to start supporting the models that we can actually represent in the weighted graph and the ones that we don't, as today. That we will have tooling to let you understand if that's the case or not. So if the model is using the new weighted graph or not. In our experience, finding the models that people using the Auth0 product are using, in most cases, they are not using the features that we are removing. And that's one of the reasons that we are taking this approach, right? We know the impact is not big, but there are some examples of models that use that, and we are kind of provide tooling and helping on how this is going to get. And then we are going to figure out ways to warn users. Maybe when we start OpenFGA, when you write a model, then we can detect those scenarios and warn you, so you understand that. For two reasons. First, because like in a lot of cases, the changes in the model are small, and in most cases, and you will get a lot of benefits in performance. So the cost benefit there is great. So you can do a very small tweak and improve performance a lot. And so yeah, the idea there is that, and then we'll after we have this migration, there are more things that we can do on top of the weighted graph, and that we are going to also explore in future meetings, like more optimizations or how we generate SQL and for SQL databases that will help us push forward the performance in both the scenarios in every query, right? In checks and list objects and list users eventually. So there's a lot of for the community and for the product to gain taking this path, and I think we're gonna unlock so we've been improving performance a lot in the last few months, right? You've been following and trying OpenFGA for this period of time. You have seen those improvements. It's gonna keep getting better and better. So we're very excited about that.
I think we also have plans to want to add a new command to the CLI that will help you validate if a model is compatible or not before you have to write it. And so, as those come out, we'll announce them. It's not going to be a quick change, but something we do over time.
Yep.
Just wanting to make sure everybody is aware of the changes that are coming.
Yeah. So we discussed if we should create a new version of the model or not. and it's something that we might evaluate, right? And so there might be kind of 1 to 3 or 2 0, right? Right now it is, so we do have some ideas of how to improve the model language to support more features, right? And we were kind of, given that we are not changing the model itself here, and that we were debating if there should be a new model version of just a kind of a flag or a deprecation in the product, right? At the end of the day, we believe you should move to the new version, and because you're going to get more benefits, and we want to simplify the code and remove the old code sooner than later, right? So supporting multiple versions wasn't something we wanted to do in the long term either, right? So we are taking this approach of kind of supporting for some time. Of course, all the versions of OpenFGA will always have that feature, right? But and after we evaluated that the impact in customers in the hosted version is going to be relatively small, we had more confidence that there was kind of a decent path instead of bringing all the debt of supporting both for a longer time, right? So we might change our minds here, but that's the path we are taking right now.
But like before the time comes where everything is fully removed, expect us to roll out tooling. So expect us to improve the CLI, to start validating on this, be able to check your models, expect us to improve the VS Code, IntelliJ. So expect us to improve the tooling so that we can at some point be able to better tell you that you need to do changes. Hopefully also guide you in terms of what changes you need to make. So like we won't be dropping this anytime soon, but other than like being prepared, it's good to be prepared because you don't want to have to deal with this in 6 months when we do drop it, X amount of months, I don't know when. But also, as Andres said, like moving now gets you performance improvements. And this is like the carrot, or I don't know. So like if you start doing so now, like you will notice a lot of performance benefits.
Perfect. So, Ragged, when you want to talk about the playground?
Yes. Okay. So let's talk about the playground. Everyone loves talking about the playground. For those of you who have been with us for a while, you've definitely, if you've used it, you've definitely either voiced or seen the frustration and with our existing playground. Also, a few things have happened recently, as in over the last year, where increased security not issues posture on the browsers made it harder to continue supporting the local playground. So the way it worked right now is it's just a wrapper around the hosted OpenFGA Playground wrapped in an iframe, but talking to your database. So it's the problem is that's HTTPS. Most of the folks who do use the playground locally use it with an HTTP, and the browsers no longer allow that. So you're gonna start, if you haven't already, you're probably start to seeing connection issues. Additionally, a lot of people want to host the playground not on localhost. They want to host it at like playground.mycorp.org or whatever. And for security, again, reasons, we only allow the playground to be play.fga.dev or localhost 3000. So because we don't want other people to impersonate it, and then you would be in a bad place. So that said, also like the branding wasn't where it needs to be, the codeware wasn't where it needs to be, so we weren't in a place to open source it. And like, actually, let me share my screen. I mean, the playground did have a lot of charm, and it has been with us now for 4 or 5 years. It does have a few problems. This is too small for most people editing. You don't get like a lot of the usability benefits of, like, it only shows a bit. The graph, some people love it, some people hate it, some people don't know what to think about it. So the fact that we support only one graph, and that because it's closed source, not a lot of people can influence the design or can contribute alternative designs. with a problem. So and recently, due to some security issues, we decided to just deprecate the built-in playground in OpenFGA. So if you're still using that, soon enough we'll just remove it. You won't be able to. So what will we do? We just drop no replacement, nothing. No, actually, we're working on an alternative idea of what the playground could be like, and lots of asterisks come up here where our design lead has not yet okayed this. So take this as a POC of what it could be, some ideas. So do not blame her for any of the design decisions taken here. But the idea is we're trying to tackle most of the problems we had. So giving you a much bigger space for you to be able to author the model, and trying to give you places where you can run the queries. So in the old playground, you could not do things other than like check. And so here you can do check, list objects, its users, even list relations. You can see the change log. A lot of the operations supported by the API are more visible. There's an API log, so if anything goes wrong, you're able to see what the request was and what happened. There's a model browser, so if you want to go back in history, see what the model looked like previously, you can. So you can see here. You can even so if you want to diff models, you can see, okay, what changed across different models. So some of the, I mean, none of this is breakthrough functionality. It's just nice to have. Importantly, we're experimenting with what multiple visualizations would look like. So here you'd see, like, is the existing visualization, if it worked for you, great. If you want to try something different, great. Do contribute if you can think of a visualization that works for you. The cool thing about this is being open source is that you can contribute, and we can just whoever maybe. I don't think we'll be able to have one graph that works for everyone. Everyone thinks of the model in a different way. Some people starting from the relations, some people starting from the types. And there's no reason we need to have a single graph to cover all use cases. So the idea is like just allowing this use case of switching between graphs and more like space for people to experiment. What else do we need to share? You can still, now this shows you, oops, sorry. You can import, export. One problem that we have not fully, I mean, we have probably solved, but we haven't fully agreed on is the problem is we didn't want the playground to talk to unauthenticated backend. So we were thinking about how to solve that problem. Right now, as is, it does connect if you don't have an API token configured. So if you have no security in front of your OpenFGA server, you can use the playground. There is a potential, an idea we're investigating of, which is this, which is proxying through the CLI. So you can configure all your servers through the CLI, and they showed here, which allows you to talk to like Auth0 FGA if you want, like through client credentials or whatever API token you have. And this is configured through a file, through the CLI. So the CLI will serve you. You'd have to set a token. So this token allows the playground to talk to the CLI and proxies everything through it. Where are we? So again, this is an idea. This is still in its early infancy. Expect changes. We want you to, if you want, suggest changes. So expect, like, as the team starts to look through this, some ideas will be rejected, some will be replaced, things like this. The idea is at some point we will have also like a WASM. So we'll have at some point a WASM kind of backend for if you don't want to talk to a server, you just for the hosted OpenFGA Playground. to just experiment with OpenFGA. But these are early ideas. So think of this as an early validation concept, and disclaimers like AI did help with building this a lot. So that should be said.
I hope.
But so right now, this is not yet under OpenFGA. We'll talk, like as a team, we'll be talking, and we'll be thinking of putting it. You will be able to see it under my right now account on GitHub, but hopefully, I'm assuming everyone's okay with it, it will become open source as part of OpenFGA.
Awesome, Bragas. Thanks for sharing. I can't wait. Okay, so some community news. And so we have now Tetrate, which is one of the companies who maintain Envoy, that we collaborated in building an official integration with Envoy. They Envoy supports now extensions that run in process with the Envoy engine, right, using Golang extensions. And so what we built together was an extension that runs there, and you can call OpenFGA directly for Envoy without a sidecar. And this opens a lot of possibilities, right, for authorization in an API gateway that or an MCP gateway, because you can also do the Envoy supports that too, and to call OpenFGA directly for some of those use cases. And this, of course, and it's open source. We build it together, so they have kind of using the OpenFGA best practices and Envoy best practices. So we see here an opportunity for helping that community and adopt OpenFGA and the other way around. So that was super exciting. There's a KubeCon in India soon, and there's Rahul will be presenting there. This is in a month, and Rahul is not part of the OpenFGA team, but it's great when we see presentations accepted by other teams of the community, other members of the community in different events, in particular in KubeCon. So it's great to see. And this is just this was 3 hours, like 2 hours ago, right? But in a couple of hours, I'll be participating in a podcast talking about OpenFGA and intent-based authorization for AI agents in this podcast. So if you want to learn more and want to join us there, that will be great. And then on the roadmap side, so most of the efforts are being put right now on this check performance improvements using the weight of the graph. We are close to release that one, right? So we've been testing it, and usually with these features, we test them first ourselves in our products to make sure they have the performance that we want, right? And we ship them as experimental features in OpenFGA, and when we are ready, we kind of publish it and make it part of the mainstream product, right? And so the integration with Envoy now is done, so we should move it to done. And we shipped experimental outside support. We are kind of receiving feedback and want to get more feedback about that implementation before we make it, and we just make it not experimental. And as we shared, and we are working on a playground, some playgrounds ideas that we're gonna probably ship soon, hopefully, and as we are deprecating the usage of the existing playground in the OpenFGA product. So that's it. I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments. This is the right moment. And if not, thank you very much, and we'll see each other in a month.